and what we get done in our town together. What I learned in 12 years of politics locally is that none of us politicians get it right all the time. Some do better than others. But I believe, regardless of party affiliation, on the local level, all of us truly hope we get it right most of the time. That's kind of the best we can do. And we do what we do with considerable thought and hope for a better tomorrow. For me, it actually takes a fair amount of research and thought before I form an opinion on an issue. I do research, I talk to constituents, I confer with other government officials who maybe have more wisdom and experience in something than I do. But just as importantly, we rely on you, the public, to let us know when we get it wrong. And I hear a lot of that. And to let us know when we get it right. And this opinion is probably best expressed at the ballot box. But none of us get it right all the time, but we try. Ed Koch, former mayor of New York, once said, if you support 80% of what I'm doing, you vote for me. If you support 100% of what I'm doing, you better see a therapist. So the point is to say we all do our best, and I hope people appreciate and respect the work that our local officials do, and that we all learn to respect each other and love each other a little bit more in the town of Olive. So with that, let's get on with the town of Olive State of the Union. A couple of topics I'll just go through, and I've got a number of them. The comprehensive plan we're working on is after a public survey, research, and discussion by the Comprehensive Plan Committee, led by the town board member Drew Bajas, who is here. I want to introduce Drew here. And with input from the Housing Committee and the Conservation Advisory Council, the town is near finalizing its first ever comprehensive plan, and the committee is now reviewing the first draft sent to us by our consultant, Labella. The comp plan addresses issues of housing, land use, zoning, natural resources, business, traffic issues, parks, recreation, utilities, transportation, government services. It is a snapshot of what exists in the town and identifies what we'd like the town to look like in the future, and recommendations on how to move forward to achieve those goals. The plan will serve as a guidebook for future boards to plan accordingly for the needs of the town, and once the first draft has been edited, it will be presented to the public for review and comments, and before its adoption, there will be an additional public hearing, and the board will vote on whether they want to adopt it or not. That's the comprehensive plan. At the end of this, you can ask me questions, we'll have answers. If we have any difficult questions, I'll have Drew answer them. Zoning. Several years ago, we appointed a zoning committee to examine the town zoning code and make recommendations to the town board as to how to amend our zoning code and to better meet the needs of the community. The zoning committee helped draft our current short-term rental law, and we're working on an update based on what we've learned from the short-term rental process so far. So we hope to make some amendments to that law in the very near future. The comp plan will help guide any changes the town board may wish to make to our zoning code, and our code dates back to 1975 with very few amendments made since then. Recreation. The town continues with a very successful recreation program, especially our very affordable summer day camp, adult recreation, a summer concert in Davis Park, pool programs, including an adult swimming lessons, and water aerobics. You can always see Miss Kate McLaughlin there doing her laps. It's a great program, and I think that's something that we all in the town should be proud of. Other town supervisors are always telling me how much envy they have for our programs in our town. So, and that is, a lot of people work on that and contribute to that, and I appreciate that. Housing. Last year, a housing committee was appointed to address the needs of affordable housing in the town. The committee has done a lot of research. Some of us have attended regional and national housing seminars and learned a lot about how housing is funded, built, and maintained. And we learned about how this problem came about. One of the eye-opening things we learned was that in Ulster County, 17.5% of the homes are vacant most of the time. Most of the time. Due to second home ownership, short-term rentals, and estates that are still in dispute and have been in dispute for years. Recent census data that I just got the other day from, I think it was 2022 or 3, indicates the vacancy rate in the town of Olive is 23%. Almost 1 in every 4 houses that you see when you drive down the road is most of the time vacant. That's a pretty big impactful thing on our town. And that's why when you look around our town and you see the school district population dropping, you see all these short-term rentals and things, and you see how difficult it is for us to get people to join committees and get involved in the town. There's just not as many people around as there was. Very fortunately, the town board supported moving quickly and creating one of the most aggressive and restrictive short-term rental regulations in the county. We have about 75 permits operating annually, and non-owner occupied rentals are currently capped at 26. That's for non-residents. Violators operating a short-term rental without permit will face steep fines, and our short-term rental law does not allow ownership by corporations. It is my hope, this is my kind of goal on this, is that we'll be able to, in the future, develop partnerships with developers to build what I would call permanent housing, affordable housing, to house our local workforce. Many working class people can't afford to live here, limiting the ability of our local businesses to operate successfully. I see businesses curtailing hours because they don't have staff. It's really hard for somebody to work hourly here and be able to live here. The rent, as far as affordable and permanent housing is where applicants are screened for income eligibility and the rent or purchase price is kept low through subsidies and or mixed housing development. The rent or the purchase price is maintained as affordable for future occupants. The Shokan Sewer District. That project is moving along, slowly moving along, but it's moving. This year we were told there was a budget shortfall with New York City. They were having a problem with their budget, for their capital budget for 2025. In May, they came to the CWC and they said, we had told them that last year that was going to be more than what we had budgeted for, or that we had projected with an engineering firm. It was projected to be $48 million, and we knew it was going to come in higher because of all the price increases since COVID. We kept telling them, be prepared for this, be prepared for this. We finally came up with a number. It was going to be $30 million more. So now that project is $78 million. New York City came back and said, okay. A month later in May, they came back and they said, we can't put that in the 2025 budget. And I was like, if you can't put it in the 2025 budget, we can't go out to bid. And we're gonna be coming back next year saying it's more money. And this is kind of like the snake chasing its tail, and we're never gonna get anywhere here. We went back and forth, and we were able to secure eventually from the commissioner. I had several meetings with the commissioner of the DEP up here in Shokan, and we were able to secure the extra $30 million. So now the project is on schedule, and we're scheduled to go out to bid in the summer. So that project is underway. Conservation and environment. I have to get a drink of water here that I had somewhere. Bear with me. Ever drink water in front of a bunch of people? It's embarrassing. The water, I know I can do that pretty well. I used to have a drinking problem. Shokan Sewer District. I did that one. Conservation and environment. Look, we all know that we live in like an amazingly beautiful place. You know, it's our comprehensive plan survey. The highest thing in that survey was to keep the town rural. That we all love the rural quality of our town. That means a lot of different things to everybody. But much of our land, you know, it's kind of a double-edged sword. Much of our land is protected by New York State DEC and the New York City watershed. But there are areas in the town that we felt needed a little bit further look at and to recognize and maybe offer some protection. This was done recently through the efforts of the Olive Conservation Advisory Council. Simon Strauss is here. I don't know who else is here. And they created a natural resource inventory. That was back in 2021. And the CAC, as we call them, worked with the Hudson River Estuary Program with a grant and established 2 critical environmental areas mapped and subsequently adopted by the town board in late 2023. That is areas that were kind of just mapped out and said these are sensitive areas. If development were to happen in these areas, that the planning board is required to look at this and just say, have you looked at these issues? It's not regulatory, it's just a process. The CAC is also looking at community choice aggregation to provide low-cost renewable electric supply for our residents and businesses. We're in the process of that right now. The pricing isn't there. We're not going to. I don't think the board wants to impose anything that's going to be costly to people. More recently, the CAC has done a lot of work on clean energy projects that made the town eligible for grant funding through the NYSERDA Clean Energy Community Program. These projects include grant funding for a building energy audit, a new heat pump heating and cooling system in the town meeting hall and court clerk offices. I'm currently working on another grant that they received for new foam insulation in the town meeting hall and replacement of the heating and cooling systems in the American Legion with energy efficient heat pump units largely funded through the CEC grants acquired by the CAC. The total amount of grant funding due to the efforts of the Conservation Advisory Council is well over $100,000. So I give them a little hand there. In Boyceville, we've been working on the flood buyout programs in Boyceville. The town was awarded a grant of about $275,000 from the National Fish and Wildlife Fund. A local committee has been working on, was formed and helps guide the grant, and 3 consultants were hired to look at the flood buyout properties to develop a 60% design plan for the use of these properties as a public parkland, kind of a parkland situation. We've presented these plans to the DEP and the DEC. We've received enthusiastic support for the project, with maybe even them contributing certain aspects of this property to help it, maybe putting on a DEC fishing access parking lot, and maybe helping maintain roads. And we're in conversation with them right now about that. Unfortunately, the NIFWIF, that's what the National Fish and Wildlife Fund we call NIFWIF, is funded through NOAA, another one of those, and is in danger of getting cut because of the federal things going on right now. So it's a little bit unclear whether that funding will be intact, so I've asked the consultants. I don't want them to work and not get paid, so I've asked them to pause on the project. So hopefully that funding will be secured. More recently, we just started doing a flood analysis. We had a flood analysis done in 2017, and we're going to update that. We formed the Flood Advisory Committee. The committee is mostly made of town employees who've done this, who have experience in the field and have witnessed the flooding. Highway Superintendent Brian Burns is on it, I'm on it, two people from the Building and Zoning Department are on it, and we work with a group of professionals from the Ashokian Watershed Stream Management Program. The committee, we look at areas in the town that have frequent flooding and how we can resolve those issues and try to make them eligible for grant funding. The committee has mapped a new study area in Ashokian, and they will amend the existing area in study area in West Ashokian, enlarging a little bit where we've seen some problems. A request for proposal was sent out to engineering firms in January for this local flood analysis, and the proposals were received this week and they're being looked at, and we'll be deciding on who to choose in March, I believe. Once the engineering firm is selected, the firm will analyze areas of flooding in these areas and make recommendations for flood mitigation. And as I said, this process opens up the door for funding to mitigate these flood hazard areas. Infrastructure. The town completed the construction of a cold storage garage in West Ashokian recently for the highway trucks to be stored. This garage will increase the longevity of the trucks and make it easier for the highway crews to respond during severe weather events when they're loaded up with salt, and they can just leave them in there and just come right out with them. The project was $1.7 million. It was funded largely through capital savings, federal ARPA money, and a $250,000 seven-year bond that will have that paid off in 7 years. And that does about $50,000 a year to cost the town. So that was a pretty good funded project. The town's looking at future renovation of the town office facility to increase workspace, storage space, and maybe add a conference room. Pretty tight in there. That's about my update. I got that all out. That was pretty good. So with that, Drew and I will be here and field your questions, and I ask you to try to give each other a little room, a little respect. And if you want to raise your hand, we'll call on you. Keep it orderly. Yes?
Go back to the electric,
Yes,
opt-in, opt-out.
correct.
What's the status on that?
It's called community choice aggregation, and the town hired a consultant firm to come in and administer that. And what they do is they look at our rates and they look at our users, and they join together a couple towns and they try to price a fixed rate electric, renewable electric for, like, with a lot of towns, more people, and you get a better pricing. That's the theory. When we looked at this about 4 years ago, it was very, very competitive with what the dirty energy of Central Hudson is, okay? And that made it appealing, and we started down this road. We just went and asked them to look at pricing again, and it's not competitive. So we're not, at this point, we just got pricing the other day. It wasn't competitive. We're gonna get another round of look-see in March. I have a feeling it's not gonna be competitive then either. There's a lot of uncertainty in the market right now. So I don't think we should move forward on it at this point.
Companies that are doing it,
Yeah,
they're the only ones that are making any money on it, because the renewable energy, you don't save any money on at all. And it's an opt-out program, so if
Right.
you don't pay attention to your mail or junk mail.
right.
You're stuck with it. My
The
son just got stuck up in Sorgate, he said $200 a month more. He went out and bought a solar system. When I asked him about it, I said, what's on the bottom of your bill? He says, oh, Joule.
Right.
I said, good. Apparently, he didn't check his junk mail,
Right.
which is, it's, the only ones that are gonna make any money off of this, it's not gonna help anybody buying on their electric bill.
Mhm.
The only one that's gonna make money is Joule. That's why it's opt-out.
Well, it is opt-out, and there's a pretty good, public outreach to make people know that the opt-out process is there. And like I said, we're not gonna take this unless it's competitive.
But regardless, renewable energy is gonna cost you more money.
Maybe. Next? Yeah.
Good answer, Jim.
Has the town been asked for approval for the publicly owned Hudson Valley Power Authority?
No, we have not.
Do you anticipate weighing in on that at all?
I want to learn a little bit more about it before I make an opinion on that. I've talked to Sarah Hanna's office about that a little bit. There's some good points to it, but I have to learn a little bit more.
What are you looking to learn?
I want to learn about the transition and how the unions would be affected by it and the workforce would be affected by it. I want to see other examples and what the pricing is as well.
What are we talking about?
There's a movement in the county with Sarah Hanna and Michelle Hinchy have put forth the ability to be able to do a public buyout of Central Hudson's utility and become a publicly owned utility company. And so they're just starting the conversation on that. I don't know if it'll ever get anywhere, but it is an interesting idea. In the back.
Does that mean that both the delivery side of our bill as well as the supply side of our bill would be taken over by some new entity?
Would be a publicly owned entity, yeah.
So who's gonna repair the power lines?
That would be the same people that repair them now, but it would just be new ownership. And none of them, Central Hudson doesn't produce energy, they buy it on the open market. So it would be, that entity, from what I know of it, would also look and see what they wanted to put on the open market. What they wanted to buy. But like I said, this is pretty much in the early stage. I don't know that much about it, I just heard a little bit.
People
Yeah.
want to look, the town of Messina in upstate New York did this, I think, 12 years ago. And it's an interesting study on switching from commercial to publicly owned. And they pay half the rate of the local towns. So, I mean, it's not a bad idea, but as Jim said, there are a lot of things to think about, especially union, And they worked all that out in Messina, but it was a process. It took quite a few number of years, but, just Google Messina Power and there's lots of information about that. Just a sidebar, sorry.
Any other questions? No, I'll go home. Sarah?
Thanks, Jim. I was just wondering, can you tell us what the potential impact will be if we do lose the NOAA funding for Boysville?
If we lose the NOAA funding for Boyceville, we're gonna have to look at other ways to get it done. We have 60% drawings on paper. They're not quite done, but we're there enough that we could proceed with 60. The last part of that grant was to do a demonstration project on the site. So we were looking at doing, the committee was talking about doing a little pathway on the former Stuckey property by the water there, do like a little round loop of a pathway, do a little bit of maybe moving the flagpole a little closer in the lot and putting a little memorial there and some signage about what was there previously. Also, it would have just very, very rough kind of access to the stream there, not to encourage any kind of swimming or anything like that. That's not what we're looking for. We're just looking for access. That would be if we could get some of that done. If we have the 60%, 60% is like pretty good. It just doesn't have the details. So then we could see, if we could get further funding from other nonprofits. We had originally started that project out with a grant from the Musser Fund that I got. It was the first grant I ever got. And it was only for like, I don't know, $5,000 or $7,000. And we did the first community outreach about those buyout properties, if you remember way back, and students were involved and there was some kind of sketches and things. So we could go back to organizations like that, nonprofits that aren't federally funded. Yes?
So related to that, are there either state agencies or nonprofits that fund community gardens?
I would imagine, I don't think there's state agencies, kind of park agency, stuff like that is kind of hard to find. I would think that nonprofits, there might be nonprofits that might be interested in that. One of the thoughts that we had going into this with the committee was that if we get to a certain point, we're never gonna be able to build this whole thing at once, but we could start looking at maybe corporate sponsorships for certain aspects of it that could build, like, I don't know, whatever aspect of it, that corporate interest would have, they might be able to fund a little bit of it and put a little signage up that they donated that, or locally or regional sponsors, business sponsors and things like that. We could go that route if the funding dries up on the other end. Yes?
I know that Ontario is talking about the central campus.
Yes.
Personally, I think it's amazing, but I just wanna make sure people are starting to hear that. There's a big vote in May, and there's a community forum at the high school next Tuesday. But I'm also curious if you have thoughts about that and any
Well,
implications for all of us.
yes, when we did meet with Onteora about this, we had a meeting with the administrative staff and let them know what our plans were. Part of the thought process was to have them utilize some of this. In other words, they've always done a stream program where they bring people down to the access to the stream. They bring students down there and they go in the water and they actually look at things in the water and examine them and learn a lot about that kind of science-based things. They have a real need for fields. They're on the other side of 28, on their side of 28. There might be, in the design, there's a field, I'm not quite sure of the dimensions. I know it's not a full-size field for any kind of sport activity, but it could be a half-field practice field. And they would if possibly could utilize that if I can get them to agree. If it's something they need and I can get them to agree to it, we will maybe allow them to use that and have a shared use with the shared maintenance on it, so we can defer some of our maintenance costs of this. Mr. Ingram, how are you tonight?
Could I come up there and address the audience?
No, that's not what this is. You can sit there and address the audience.
He wants a bigger office.
Yeah, he wants a microphone.
Okay, some of you know me, some of you don't know me, some of you look similar to the way you looked 50 years ago. But I think I have thoughts as I'm sitting here going through this stuff. I have two hats in this town. I've been, I think, 57 years as a volunteer fireman. I've been, how many of you understand or know what the Olive Fire Department is? There's a couple. The Olive Fire Department is a not-for-profit corporation, member-owned corporation, run by a board of directors that supplies fire protection to the town of Olive under contract basis on a 3-year contract. So when you go over to the phone and say, gee, I need somebody here to put the fire out, or I need somebody to come and pick me up, you push 911, there's an assortment of people show up. I'm not sure how many people are aware of the value that's sitting in these 5 firehouses on a day-to-day basis available. Right now, the Bly Fire Company in this side of Marbletown closed up. So they said, that's all well and good, we have no help. 9 times out of 10, we're running to Woodstock, Phoenicia, Accord, as a mutual aid company because all these people are short on help. So when we have a monthly meeting in the firehouse in Olive Bridge and 40 and 45 people show up as active, answering the call membership, we're in our glory, to say the least. So there's several thoughts that come with this, and
You can have your state of the town one day.
one of the things with this weather we've been having is the absolute ridiculous condition of sidewalks, driveways, and approaches to buildings. I'm in the same boat. I put cows across the road every day, twice a day actually, trying to figure out where to put them on the ice. If you have a long driveway, I checked the place today, there's at least 100 yards of driveway, absolute solid ice. We sanded it, that's fine. The sand is there, the ice melted, the sand is there, inch lower than it was. But if you have any condition like that, and you know, I had one man say to me, well, I don't need the fire company. I said, you're in a god-awful driveway to begin with, you fall, you want an ambulance? Oh, maybe. Well, the ambulance is gonna put you on a sled and push you up the hill out of your driveway, if you're lucky. So if you have any condition like that, please do everything you can. I know it costs money, and it may cost you more money again Friday, but it's your safety and your comfort and our safety coming to help you that's critical. And I talked to somebody I was talking to today, my minister's mother-in-law broke her hip yesterday. Fortunately, I think she's okay. But everybody's susceptible to one of these deals, and we run into it way too frequently. I checked the board in Boyceville when I came through there this afternoon. We're up to 46 calls so far for this year from the first of the year. We were banging them out basically one a day for a while. It slowed down for 2 days, big whoop. Last year we did, I think it was 263 calls for the year. The year before was 300 and some odd. It's a busy group of people, and it's a dedicated group of people, and we just would like your help, and if you need us, for God's sakes, push the button. We'll come for anything. We're not too thrilled about this false alarm business, but if you burn supper, it's up to you to do something about making an agreement with your better half about what the food is and hide the results. We get them. Oh, gee, I forgot to turn the oven off yesterday. Now, my
Speak
other-
after the fire?
Anybody have any questions about the fire company? If you do, just look for me, call me, or find me, or whatever you can. Talk to a couple people here, they know how to do it too well. My other hat, I'm gonna go on for a minute, because part of what you're doing missed what I'm gonna say.
Okay.
Back in 1973, there was a guy named Bert Liefeld that was chugging around town here. Some of you know Bert. I saw Bert, what's today, Wednesday? Tuesday. Tough shape. I hate to see him. Knew Bert for 50 years. It's not the same person. He said, why you're not doing anything one day, why don't you get on this committee, we're gonna write a zoning ordinance. And I thanked him for that, and I think we had 40-some meetings before we put this thing together that is now still a fairly functionable zoning ordinance. Now, Drew, in his infinite wisdom, who is retired from whatever labor he did in his world when he was active and youthful, has decided that we should adjust, is probably the proper term, the zoning ordinance. So we're making some adjustments to that. So, as things progressed, I was also asked if I would like to be the code enforcement officer. So I said, well, I haven't got anything to do, we're just farming, we have nothing else to do besides. So I took on that little function. So I get to go out and say to somebody, look, you're screwing up, this is not what the zoning code says, we gotta change that. Well, then shortly, we come along with a building code. So, I think it's 32 or 33 years later, I'm still a part-time building inspector. Dominic Covello, because of the location of Dominic's residence and my residence, we split the town. He stays on the other side of the reservoir. Right now, he's in Florida sucking up the sun. But I do this side mostly, and crossover whenever we have to. But in any case, we're still chugging along with this stuff. So this building code thing is a real nightmare. If you really get into it, you go crazy. If you want to put the zoning with the building, it works. But there are people that say to me, why don't you quit? I say, well, it's a possibility, certainly. I've been 82 years old, so I figure I got another week or two before I quit. But anyhow, if you have anything going on that needs to be built, torn down, worked on, please come to the office. Any is our secretary, hired in whatever you want to call her, but Amy knows a lot of the answers. She knows how to find me or Dominic, and we can get you through it. I found a house yesterday, most of the contents of the house are out in the front yard. I thought to myself, that's a little awkward. So I looked into it today, and I discovered that the house was sold yesterday. They signed the contract yesterday. When I found it yesterday, most of the inside of the house was in the dumpster. I thought that was pretty slick timing, but I also found out they didn't have any kind of permits. So we paid them a visit this afternoon, and a piece of red paper says, stop. So then my phone started ringing, well, what do we have to do? I said, well, first of all, you should have told us you bought the place yesterday. Second of all, you should have had a demolition permit today, or yesterday. And third of all, what are you gonna do when you get done? So we have these fun little episodes, to keep things going. But if you have any questions about the what's going on zoning-wise, junk is a great standby. We've got a few junk customers that are in the works. Someday we're gonna haul them into County Supreme Court and say, look, this is what's happening, you gotta clean it up. Anything like that, please call the office, make an appointment, come in and see us Wednesday morning, or if you need any other time, give us a jingle, we're there. Anybody have any questions about it?
When you get in your new office?
Well, that's a question.
I never mentioned that.
You wanted to mention this magnanimous storage building for the highway building, trucks and what have you. Part of the building that is the old town hall up there has been our office. There are currently 2 gals in the office at desks. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I think 7 filing cabinets, 2 doors, and absolutely no room to turn around. So, and this is gonna sit big. I've been dropping a few subtle hints about this, what was the garage out and back. We meet out there simply because it's the only place to put a table out, to put a roll of plans out. And I subtly asked for a rug. Didn't get it yet.
I got one in my basement, I'll give you.
In any case, it would be really nice someday if we had, and I don't know what the town, I would really hate to see the town office building change externally.
Right.
Yeah.
But internally, there could be some adjustments, I think, that would be a big improvement for us. So much for that.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
So let me respond to a couple of things, because John made some really good points, and I'm glad he spoke up. One, first of all, I mentioned earlier about how the Parks and Rec is the envy of the county in our town, but also the Olive Fire Department is the envy fire department in our town, in our county. Everyone tells me that, we have, you have 45 active, you have 75 members, I think, altogether.
There's 45 come to a meeting pretty
Right.
regularly. but
I think
there's
it's 75.
78 on the membership roll.
And we got one last month, we got another one coming up this month, younger people coming in and joining the fire department. It's a really well-run, well-trained department, and, it's another source of pride from being Olive that we have such a great fire department. And they show up when you need them. And as for the alarms, we've had a couple of institutions, commercial facilities that have, over the years, have had repeated malfunctioning alarms, and on our desk right now is an addition to the town code that will be an alarm law, that if you have more than two, I think on the second alarm, you get warned that you've had this problem within a year. On the third one, you get fined. I forget what that fine is, like $500 or something on the first one.
Was it 250
Yeah.
to start with?
I know it was 500.
Yeah.
And, so anyway, we're working, we heard that, and we responded to that as well.
The fire department, that money, not the town.
And the fire department gets that money if we find them. The other thing is on the office space, John's right, he meets the town office has a garage space in the back that the highway department used. They needed to store things in there because it was heated for the winter. And the reason that we spent so much money on a nice garage for them to put their trucks out was to enable us to then move them out of our office and then be able to enlarge our office. And John knows that very well because he's been sitting in that garage having meetings. It's not the most pleasant place to have a meeting, but we make it work, right?
It's much better in July than it is in December.
All right. Any other questions?
Well, are there any plans to hook them up? I mean, what's gonna happen?
So we have to get Drew and I were just talking about this, we're gonna get a 30% design together to renovate the town office.
Oh, great.
We have to get an engineering firm to do that, we have one in mind. And then we had that in our budget for this year for engineering, and then next year maybe go up to 60%. This is gonna take several years to do, and the funding is gonna be hard. In that time, hopefully we can squirrel away some money from year to year and at least have a good start on it. We were fortunate on the last project because we had a lot of ARPA money to spend. We had $300 and some thousand. Yeah.
Well, you're pretty humble about how well you do with the stewardship of our money. You just happened to say, oh, we had some capital savings that we used. You should be really proud of what you've done in terms of,
No, I appreciate that, yeah.
I mean, you really have been a great steward of these resources, and I bet you the market, it seems like the market's doing well. It seems to me that we could be saving for that and not be so reliant on that. I like the idea of the town of Olive being a little more self-supporting, especially for things that are really important to
Yeah.
us in an immediate way.
Yeah.
Jim, I'm sorry, I just need to interrupt. Someone is parked in the driveway going up to our neighbors. There are two cars over that way.
That'd be the big
driveway.
mouth back here.
Oh. If you could move it, there's a Tundra and another car.
When I got on the town board, we were making about $100 or $35 a month on interest on our accounts. And since I got on, I changed the investment on those accounts. We make about $20,000 a month in all our reserves, not just on one, but all of the reserves. And we're also well-rated in the state does a fiscal analysis of all the towns, and we're very highly rated on that. We're one of the highest ratings you can get. Next question. Yes,
I
well,
got
wait.
another thought, Jim.
Uh-oh. Yes,
In my travels, I get to review all these housing plans that are coming on. Every time you turn around, somebody's building a house in the bushes someplace, some godforsaken lot. So you say to the builder, who is this are you building this house as a spec house, or is this for a family or people? Well, they're in the city, and they're coming up, and they're building a $2 million house. And my concern is that $2 million house, they built it at the end of this 100-yard driveway that's all ice. They're coming once or twice in the wintertime, they're coming a couple times in the summertime, they like the place. Then they decide, we can't do that again, so all of a sudden it's for sale. But what bothers me the most is that the people that are doing this are not people that are here to be part of the town of Olive. These people come in here, they have no concern about the town, they have no concern about what was the town of Olive. You know, most, when I say most, a lot of you looking around, I recognize you, but a lot of you have been here longer than maybe is desirable to mention. But because you're here, you're concerned. The people that are coming here, that are getting in these houses, that are $2 or $3 million worth of rocks, they could care less. And if you know of any, or see of any of these, or any of these become your neighbors, it's up to us as the community to go grab them, drag them out of the house, bring them to this kind of meeting, bring them to whatever you can, Olive Day or whatever it is, and make them understand that they need to be a big part of this community. Not just, oh, I'm here, I'm gone, it looks lovely, and I'm dead. No, it just, that, I get on my little soapbox, and that's one of the things that annoys me no end, because I see these people, they don't know jack. Right to the point of, you mean I gotta plow snow like a week ago? You know, yeah, yeah. And, oh, it thawed, now we got ice, and I gotta sand it again? You know, that's the kind of thinking that's going on. So if you see these people wandering around in the bushes, or you have to go walk down there on the reservoir when you have nothing else to do, if you're that short of things to do, call me. But if you can pin them to the wall, say, look, what do you contribute as a new person in the town of Olive to the town of Olive?
Thank you, John. Again. Yeah, let me have your soapbox now. All right, well, thank you, and it is an issue that we have in the town, and it's been that in some form or fashion for a long time. I look back at when the town, before the reservoir was built, and it was still 50% of the people in the town came here for holidays and vacations.
Are you that old?
Yes. I look good though, right?
Until tomorrow.
But you know, one of the things that I try to do in recognition of this is, Olive is a town that lost its town center, right? The center was along the Esopus under the reservoir. And we struggle 120 some years later still to try to find ways to bring people together in the town. It's so nice to see people out tonight to hear about this kind of stuff. The concert in the park that we started in the summer, that brings people in. I see people who are brand new residents sitting there with their little kids, and I see 3 generations of families with the grandkids, and those 2 kids are dancing together. And then the parents start to talk. And they do it at the pool. They do it at any of the Olive Day. They do it, those are the kind of things that I always promote, and part of the reason I promote them is for that, to get people to break down those barriers and let them talk to each other and try to understand each other, because I think that's important. Next question. Yes, you didn't ask one yet. I got a couple of repeat offenders here.
Appropriately, you had to, you kind of didn't skip over, you touched on the comprehensive plan.
Yes.
And I think that speaks to what we're talking about royally, because where are we going in order to foster and nourish this kind of communication and so on. So my question to you is, who is on the comprehensive planning committee? Is it still open for others to join? What is your target date for completion? And once it's completed, you mentioned it will be brought to the community.
Yes.
Will it be open, flexible to change a bit and evolve beyond what the committee has presented?
I can tell you that the committee has worked on it for what, a year and a half now, about?
2.5 years.
It's
2.5, was it?
It's like 2 years.
And the committee was selected to have a diverse group of people, from newcomers, generational families, people in this aspect of it, that aspect of it, from different neighborhoods. I and the town board selected these people and appointed them. It's too late to appoint new people because we're so far down the line. We've got our first draft. You know, finally, we're working on it, just tuning that up. And, you know, I learned something. Somebody said recently that, you know, having 5 people or less on a committee is perfect. Having more than 5 is anarchy. It takes forever to get things done because you get just too many voices and it really slows down the process. But that said, you want to get community input. So we will have a community input part of that once we get the draft out for people to look at and comment on it, and we can make adjustments. But the people who did this spent a lot of time looking at these issues, you know. So you got to give them a little bit of respect and credit for that because we did really look at it. And then there'll be, once we get a final draft that people are happy with, then we'll go to a public hearing to adopt it. And it's a guidebook. It's a guidebook for the future. So that survey guided us a lot. And like I said, the highest percentage of response on that survey was like 97%, is keep the town rural. But there's also other things, like how do you keep the town rural and allow for affordable housing? So this isn't a town that we're gonna build a massive housing unit in, like you might do in Kingston, where you have more density. But we're looking at areas of where we could find that might be appropriate in the town, and kind of more little tiny areas that could. One of the things we're looking at is on our zoning code. All of this has to be, for housing, has to be done in the zoning code. Our zoning code won't accommodate a higher density of housing. But let's say you had most of the subdivisions we're seeing today, and John will verify this, are subdivisions that are coming in and the houses are $1 million or more. So how do you approach that? Is this the community we want to be? When I ran for town supervisor 6 years ago, I stopped at Bob Studing's house. Bob wrote the book, The Last of the Handmade Dams. He's a professor at SUNY New Paltz. And I said to Bob, you know, we were talking, he goes, well, you know, what's your vision for the town? How do you see? And I'm like, you know, new with this. And I was like, oh, you know, what jobs and this and that. And, you know, gave him all the punch marks that you give. And I said, but Bob, I really wanted to hear from you. What do you think? And he goes, we have, now this is pre-COVID, 5-6 years ago. And Bob said, we have all the makings in this town to be like Vail, Colorado, where everyone that lives here is so wealthy that if you work for an hourly wage, you're gonna live an hour away and have to drive here to do your job. And I was like, wow, that's a pretty bold statement. And now, after COVID, I'm seeing that's happening. So we're working on a comprehensive plan that can try to recognize that this is here, that these forces are here, and try to accommodate them in a way that we legally have to and should maybe, but also to try to preserve the rural nature and the character of our town and keep the people who've been here forever able to stay here. That's important to us, and that's what this comprehensive plan, that's what we talk about in this committee. And that's what we're looking at, different zoning things all over the country about who has what, how do you do this, well, how does the zoning change to accommodate this without overwhelming the town and making it look overdeveloped. And that's where we're at with it. Next question.
Well, it's not so much a question. I think it's important to note, but most of you probably know this, that the Comprehensive Plan Committee has not operated in an insular way. The community has been involved every step of the way, from the survey to public meetings to all of us being able to ask very annoying questions.
We do, you know, committees are funny. I was talking about this before to somebody, and, you know, committees are advisory, okay? Committees don't even have to be open to the public because they're not public bodies, okay? They don't have to have a quorum. They're just a group of people who are gonna advise me and the town board on what they think. We've asked them to help us out with this. We have a problem. We're not smart enough. We don't have enough brain power to do this. We need other ideas. And they come in and they help us and they give us advice. And this is what we think. How did you get there? This is how we got there. But they're not meetings where the public comes and there's a lot of interaction. Gentleman back there was at a community meeting and I had to say, hey, that's not the way we do it here. We're trying to get a thing done, you know? But there'll be time for that public input. That's the thing. And trying to get there, it's a long road to try to get a committee to do something. You're talking about a lot of people, this is new to them, and we're trying to do a lot of research. What I've learned about housing in the last 3 years is astronomical. You wouldn't believe what I've learned. But those are what those committees, and those committees serve a very big function. I believe in committees. I believe it's important to get more ideas than 2 or 3. But they do have to do the work. They have to get the work done. And a lot of times, they have to get the work done in a timely fashion because there's a grant there, and we need to get that grant done by the deadline of the grant. So, yes, I don't like to tell people not to get involved, but we have to get the work done, you know, it's tough. Yes,
Is it okay if I make some comments on the comprehensive plan?
sure, Drew Rogers, everyone, or Deputy Supervisor, Town Board Member.
So I'm kind of like the chairman of the comprehensive advisory committee.
Yeah,
Use the microphone? Okay. So I'm like the chairman of the advisory committee for the comprehensive plan. So we got the draft from our consultant back in December. And I think we've met twice, maybe 3 times. I'm gonna say from the committee members' point of view, they got 2 issues with the document at the moment. Part of it's the content, and I'll say disagreements between ourselves about the detail in the plan. Okay?
Keep talking, Drew.
Okay, so there's the content of it, which says, here's our goals or our recommendations, or what we wanna do. So there's some issues with that. There's also issues with the document, and different parts of it, I think, were written by different people. And we got one of our members that wants to redo it so it sounds and reads more consistent. And some sections have way too much detail, like the traffic section must be 10 or 12 pages long, and other sections are only 2 or 3 pages. So we're gonna work on trying to get that in a condition where we can present it to the public. And there's 2 things that'll have to happen. We'll have a public hearing for sure. That in alone could cause more changes to the document, but we also have to refer it to the county planning department, or county planning board. That could also require more changes. So it's likely to be a long process. I'm hoping to get it done this year, but it's gonna be a process, especially when you're working with volunteers on the committee trying to get it done.
Drew, would it make sense to have the county, weigh in on it first?
No,
So-
if it was in better shape, I would say, I mean, if it was like the committee was pretty comfortable with it, but just some little tweaks, I would say yes. But I think we need to get it in a little better shape before we go to the.
No, I meant, I think we should tighten it up, we're gonna work on Monday, but then, wouldn't it make sense to have the county weigh in on it before we open it to a public referendum?
no.
So we know what our limitations or the parameters are from a legal
Well,
standpoint?
the idea, what we've done in the past, particularly on either the planning board or the town,
Time to go home.
is if we need county input, we would have that available for our public hearing. So at the public hearing, we would know what the county's input is.
Okay, I would hate to see everybody weigh in and then we get everybody psyched and then we go to the county and they nix everything. So
And also keep in mind, if we have a public hearing and changes are made to the document that are substantial, we ultimately wind up having another public hearing on it.
Okay.
The other thing is the county planning board is advisory, their recommendations, so. we
Some
can-
of them, they can be required mods.
Now,
We can override them.
next, yes.
Just want to know, is there a rough time frame for when a draft will be available?
We're hoping to have a draft like in the late spring, probably.
Yeah.
Yep. I hope, I'm a little more hopeful than Drew. I hope to have this done this year, like for sure. Yes,
John brought up, issue that I've thought about often over the years, and that is this town has no newspaper.
Right.
The county has no newspaper that bothers to cover us.
right.
There's virtually no way other than getting on the internet to find out what's happening in town. And I like the sophistication of Shandaken, who's sharp enough to put a sign out there on the highway that says Town Board planning board.
Right.
Blah, 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 they put it right there. Can we put like 5 signboards around town where anybody coming into town is gonna know exactly when these meetings are, so it makes people, I don't know if I'm an old resident, no. I'm in 8 years, I'm out 10 years, I'm back 8 years, I'm unfamiliar
Yeah.
with the pattern.
Right.
But if we had signs right there in your face every day, we'd know when election day was, we'd know when the planning board was, we'd know when this special, party is going on.
So
need
John, do you?
Volunteers to put the plastic letters on the sign, I'll volunteer to do it, or do it sophisticated with, Bluetooth or something.
We're looking at it better. We understand that there's challenges to communication. We understand that. And we, when I came on the town board, we didn't even have a website. I got a website going. We don't have a good newspaper coverage. We do have a newspaper, I believe there's a reporter here. A new newspaper called The Overlook that is an online paper that covers the town of Olive now. Yeah, kudos. Tell them no, I said that. And I think we're looking at how to address that in the future. There's some people that are interested in a newsletter maybe, a monthly newsletter, things like that, that could be handed out and left around the town. Signboards are tough because there's a lot of capital money to go into that, and you need electricity and things like that, I believe. Maybe the fire department could help us out on that. They have a signboard.
Nice new sign, I wonder if they.
If they wanted to help promote some of our stuff, that would be we'd be more than welcome.
Anything of, seriously important can certainly go on the board in Boyceville.
Yeah, okay.
Nice.
But yeah, and I appreciate that because it is something that we,
It's how the new people, even the old people,
Right.
know when things are happening.
right. We do have a Facebook page, a Facebook thread that we put out for things for meetings all the time. So you can join our Facebook. We also have an emergency alert. If you saw in the back there's an emergency alert you can put on your phone and you can join. And we only use that for really serious emergencies. You got it. It's a good thought. Let me think about that some more, about how to approach that. But I think is it a need for it, whether it's signs or another way of informing. Thank you.
When that came up last year, some of your employees were here, and they really stressed the fact that they don't have another 5 minutes in their time. So we really need a volunteer for this kind of news broadcast. You need, if there's gonna be a newsletter, it needs to come from a new bunch of volunteers. The people who volunteer here now are tapped, and your employees are also,
I think there's room for improvement in that area, but we'll look around. But, we're also so tight on each other in the office, just to give ourselves a little room. We could, even if we brought other people in, there's still a place to sit. There's
John's new office.
John's new office is about, John's office suite, The second floor, yeah. All right. Any other questions? Yes, Rick?
You've heard me talk about the parking, for the rail trail, which now is being maintained finally. We have a beautiful sign at the entrance to the town that is only lit by, apparently, I guess Drew had put some solar
Yeah.
lights there, but
Yeah.
it doesn't really do much.
Right.
But once you get there, that's it. We have no other signage saying, welcome to Shokan, and you said we had no center anymore, but
Right.
we still have Shokan, we still have Boyceville, but once you hit that sign, nobody knows where they are. It'd be nice if we had some type of, a lot of the small towns, you go through Grand Gorge, they have the flags on the poles as they enter that area.
In Boyceville, with the plan, there was, I'm trying to remember exactly what it was called. It might have been like a message board that is in that plan for something like that, and that could be expanded into an information board.
Yeah, the sign there is beautiful. You get to Shandaken, at least they have a covered sign that has regular solar lights over top of it when you get to the town of Shandaken.
Okay.
It's a nice sign, but nobody sees it at night. So at least it'd be more attractive, especially the day trippers that are just coming through.
Okay,
Good idea.
good idea. Anything else? You got another one?
I'm not a real estate broker, I've got a particular bias. I live in town, however, and I'm sensitive to the fact that there's no affordable housing.
Yes.
I appreciate that, and I would like to see more affordable housing. Is it possible to work deal with DEP to recover some of that land that we should never, never have released to the DEP, because it has nothing whatsoever to do with water quality for the dam. We can put them on the sewer system, they've got land which is suitable for a septic system, it's of no risk to the DEP. Can we somehow recapture 50, 100, 200 acres from them?
I have discussed that with them, and I didn't get a good feedback from them on that. And I was trying to get some of the other town supervisors to, in the watershed, to get back behind that. But what we have done, they had more of an interest in what they have achieved, which is that they've got the DEP to stop acquiring land.
They're
Okay?
trying to start it up again too.
But let me make it clear. There are different priority areas in the watershed. In the Delaware County, all of the 1s and 2s were acquired, and they have 3s and 4, priority 3 and 4, which is basically further away from reservoirs and streams. And those, the DEP is no longer acquiring. They have made that declaration. My conversations with them is that they are phasing out all land acquisition, that they don't expect to acquire any more land in the town of Olive, except for ones that are already under contract, and that they're focusing their efforts on what they're calling the Streamside Acquisition Program, which will be making deals with landowners to acquire sensitive areas on streams that they feel they want to be able to preserve in a way. And the town would have to weigh in on that, opt in on that, as well as the private landowner. And I don't know if they've come to a term, whether it's a easement, a lease, whether there's a financial aspect to it for the landowner. So yes, that stuff has all been under discussion, and we're getting there. We're making progress with them on that.
Or do you
As
go
far
back
as-
further and have them release land back?
Well, let me get to that. We have, in Shokan, we have a sewer district that we're coming in. We have a mapped district. There are a few parcels in Shokan that are vacant. There are adjoining parcels that are vacant, not many. And I am in discussion with them, and they're pretty much in agreement not to access, you right there? And not to access any more, they won't access land in the map district, and they cannot solicit land on the adjoining parcels of the district.
Can you not lean on that piano? It's a very, very
Thank you.
expensive piano.
I'll just use it for balance.
And
There you go.
sensitive.
So we've gotten that far, and the idea of acquiring land, I've been trying to get together with them to look at a program, and again, I have to get other supervisors in the watershed to kind of get together on this. They just reached a big threshold that they got over with them. My idea was to take this land they've acquired and find areas that have road access, and then maybe subdivide some of that land and let the town it be developable again. Very similar to what you're saying. There's barriers to it. When they get their land, it is a near state DEC easement that is now to be forever preserved. So there's legal maneuvers that they would have to do that are pretty big steps, and it might even take New York State Assembly approval and things like that. So it's a long conversation, but I have started that with them. Anything else?
Great job.
You sure there's nothing else? No questions? That's it? All right. Well, thank you all for coming out tonight. I really appreciate you taking an interest in our town, and it's really great to see that enthusiasm. Thanks for coming out.
Oh,
They struggle with